So I walk away from last night's game, even though they lost, even though he was not the winning quarterback, but I thought to myself, I was more impressed with Will Levis, and I was more curious about what Will Levis can be compared to Kenny Pickett, who sure Kenny Pickett gets the W. Sure, Kenny Pickett now has 7 game-winning drives in his short 2-year career in the NFL. We're not even done with year 2 yet. But the Kenny Pickett performance last night, it's kind of like a mediocre roller coaster ride where you have high expectations and then you leave, and it's not as if you're saying you'll never go back and this roller coaster sucks, but it's underwhelming. So I look at Kenny Pickett, 19 of 30 in the game, 160 yards, a touchdown, was horrible in the first half, and then in the fourth quarter got going. And Kenny Pickett, it's weird because he has that grit. He has that toughness. You watch him play, and there is at times an it factor. And he walks away with 7 game-winning drives and a team now that is 5-3. But when I look at Kenny Pickett throughout the duration of the game, more times than not, I just say that Kenny Pickett is a dude and he's not the dude. And there's a difference in that. You could look like the dude at times, but week in and week out, quarter to the next quarter, half to the next half, I don't see enough moments, even with 7 game-winning drives in his career, and his career is very young, where I go, wow, Kenny Pickett's going to have a ceiling of greatness. Wow, Kenny Pickett's going to win a Super Bowl in this league. Or Kenny Pickett's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. And even though there are some moments, like when he gets in the end zone late last night where you go, that's what you're looking for, you have to remember they're going up against a bad Tennessee team. Now, this is not this sensational team that people are shaking in their boots and they had to grind it out. And you take a win when you get a win. And Thursday night in the NFL, with the short week, these games are usually not pretty. They are ugly games. But I just don't walk away whenever I watch Kenny Pickett play over a large sample size and say he's going to be one of those quarterbacks that ever has a ceiling of top 5, top 7 in this league. And you either have the quarterback or you don't. Buffalo has their quarterback in Josh Allen. The Bengals have their quarterback in Joe Burrow. The city I'm in right now, Philadelphia, they have their quarterback in Jalen Hurts. Clearly, the Kansas City Chiefs have their quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. Those are the 4 top quarterbacks in football right now. Those are the 4 best quarterbacks in football. Baltimore has their guy in Lamar Jackson. And I could give you 3 or 4 other names when you're trying to build the top 10 or 9 out of 10 guys. And I don't think Kenny Pickett is anywhere close, nor should he be this young in his career, of being a top 10 quarterback. But you see guys like Lamar Jackson, first true year as a starter, wins a league MVP, unanimous, by the way. Patrick Mahomes, first true year as a starter, win an MVP. And those are guys that are trying to become immortals. Those are guys that they're already getting ready to carve out their bust in Canton, Ohio. And there's a lot of football left for all those guys. And there's a lot of career still to build on. But sometimes when you have a quarterback, and we've seen this in the league before, whether it's a Kirk Cousins, whether it's a Dak Prescott, even like a Ryan Tannehill, to some extent, where there's just some quarterbacks that get stuck on just being good quarterbacks. And they could look like the dude at times, but at the end of the season, when you go through the turbulence and the ups and downs of a 17-game regular season, you say more so, oh yeah, they're just one of the guys. They're not the guy. And that's what I do believe, even though he has this uncanny ability to move the team down the field, even when he looks like he's not going to do so, and he just finds a way to walk away with the victories. It's not as if you walk away when you watch Kenny Pickett and go, I'm fearful of Kenny Pickett, and Kenny Pickett's going to be a stud in this league, and Kenny Pickett is going to be this great, untouchable player in this league. And I know some of this may seem unfair because he's so young into his career. He hasn't even gone through 2 years in the NFL, and he missed the first few games last year because the Steelers were stupid when they were starting Mitch Trubisky. But you can evaluate. And a lot of times now, and maybe the system's unfair, you have to evaluate quickly, and you have to make these decisions very early on because a guy like Kenny Pickett, who was a first-round pick, you get 5 years. And I'm not saying you always get those 5 years, but contractually, you get the 4 years as a first-round pick and then the fifth-year option. And usually after year 3 or year 4, those quarterbacks, deservedly so, ask for these big, lucrative salaries. And if you told me tomorrow that, like, hey, 2 years from now, Kenny Pickett, do you think he's going to be one of those $45, $50 million quarterbacks, whatever it's going to go up to, I wouldn't feel great if I'm allocating that much money to Kenny Pickett to be QB1 of my team. I'm not saying Kenny Pickett's trash. I'm not saying Kenny Pickett's horrible. I'm not saying Kenny Pickett can't be a good player in this league. But I don't see the ceiling for Kenny Pickett in the NFL to be great, to be a Hall of Fame player, to be a Super Bowl champion. And as I said earlier, it is like a mediocre roller coaster ride, where when you walk away, it's not, man, this sucked, or man, this is horrible. Yeah, there was some exciting moments. Sure, he has the 7 game-winning drives, but then, like, you look at the numbers, they've been outgained every game, and they're the only team in the history of the NFL to still have a winning record. You know, that stat was absolutely bonkers that the Steelers are the only team in the Super Bowl era to have a winning record 5-3 through 8 games, despite being outgained every game.